Hi guys, I'm back. I'm back to start working again on the champagne garden. So in the last video we created the wheelbarrow and the basket. I haven't yet worked out what's going in the wheelbarrow, but I have stitched in the shovel and the digging fork, and I put into the basket some apples. That's what I decided she has picked on her way down to the veggie patch, is some apples. So there's some little green, soft green beads just popping into the top of the basket. So what else happens? I don't know. What I want to work on in this video is start piecing in and nutting out how I'm going to do this paddock. So I've got my cheesecloth. I grabbed the two colours that I thought would work, this grey sort of tone and then this taupey colour, and I've cut off some little pieces, and then I thought, gee, I better start filming, otherwise I'll get too far ahead. So yeah, I've still got some buttons lying around that maybe I could use, that I had considered for the barrow, but I don't think so. I think they're out of the idea package. So I've just snipped off some random bits here. And I'm thinking of just having a play with the composition of how this would sort of create the ground directly below the veggie patch. And I sort of want to sneak down this side. I did bring the green over too, but maybe this would work. Just nibble off a little bit of green. If you're wondering where to get cheesecloth for the Aussie girls, I think she ships overseas too. In my Etsy share video from a week ago, I talked about where I got the cheesecloth, and it was a wedding dress. Not a wedding dress, a wedding supply business. I should have got that in the top of my head before I started this video. But I will just quickly go to purchases on Etsy and bring it up. Petals by Hannah is where I went, and she sells cheesecloth that it's been hand dyed by herself, and you use it down to dress wedding tables if you want that sort of soft, sweepy look on your wedding table. So a bit of a random place to find it, but it's perfect for us. And in the Etsy share, I picked up some blue tones, some pink tones, and then some earthy tones, and I think I will end up using them a lot. So I'm just doing a couple quick little invisible stitches here. I could just pop pins in, but I don't want to have them in my way, so I'm just going to quickly stitch this down. And then I can move on to the next thing. I need to work out how I'm going to show that this paddock of dirt in front of the barrow, or below my barrow, has been disturbed, ready for planting. So I went to my fibres in the way of wool or yarn I've used in the past, and I thought maybe there'd be something in amongst it, and I've just snipped off some random yarn. I'm just going to bring my needle up there because I think I can use it. I found this one here is a two-tone, which isn't really what we want, but that there caught my eye, and I thought maybe that could be stitched down just to show that something has happened. Then I found this. It's probably not dark enough, but that might be good in amongst the foliage. I sort of like that wool is like that, so I better keep that out. But I think this yarn has potential. I just sort of want to give the impression that something has happened there. She has started, so I think that's going to work. And I'm just going to stretch it out a little bit and soften it a little bit, I think. And just stitch that down. I could probably, to really convince the eye that that's what's going on here, go through with a brown thread and do a running stitch up the center of that disturbed soil. So that's what I want to play with in this video. And then also piece down the side of the paddock. So I'm just going to do this one furrow first. And then hopefully that'll hold all that into position. So I'll just bring my needle up and thread down here so that it's, so we've got something happening there. We're trying to, you know, give the impression that there's a paddock. And I think those pieces will work. So that will continue in the line. But I just want to make it look a little bit more structured. I wonder. This is eyelash yarn. And I'm just looking at the... What if I was to trim the whiskers off of it a little? Because that thread that they're all attached to is quite interesting. I don't mind a few whiskers because that might soften. Yeah, I like that. It's giving a hint that there's moisture in the soil. Like I know when... Like I grew up on a farm, so I'm really in my element here. I know when Dad would walk through the paddocks, because we were small crops farmers and dairy farmers. So if we weren't, oh, like here's a memory, and this just, yeah, great memory. He'd get home off the school bus. It was about an hour to get back to the farm. And afternoon tea would be ready. Dad would be there, Mum would have made something, usually something baked goods. We didn't get to town often to buy pre-made biscuits and things like that, so Mum was a very good cook. So there'd be some treat for afternoon tea, and we were usually starving by the time we got off the... Might spin that around, light to dark. And we'd be like, well, what's happening for the afternoon? We should be doing our homework, but we didn't want to do that. We wanted to get straight into the farm work. So we'd be given our tasks, and if it was planting season or even harvesting season, it might be a case of I'm just watching Pepper dig a hole out the window here. She's disturbing the soil, and I can see moisture under the soil. And this is sort of what I'm doing. Dad would walk through the paddock and he'd scratch at the soil to work out whether he needed to put irrigation on or not. You know, how was it sort of going? So, well, yeah, afternoon tea, and it'd be, righto, Mark, my brother, he's a little bit younger, he'd be sent to the dairy with Mum to start prepping for milking, and I might get a task with Dad and be down to the farm to plant something or harvest something. So, I used to love it. And it'd be like, get that afternoon tea done and a cold drink, and then off we'd go, head down the paddock. So I have this image of my father walking through the paddock, scratching that soil to see what the moisture content was like, and just sort of, should I run the irrigation? He'd then consider the weather coming, so... and the season, and oh my goodness, I tell you, it's at the moment I'm a little involved with the farm, not the day-to-day running, but because Mum passed early last year, Dad's on his own now with a farm that is still in full production, and my brother is around, and I'm sort of his backup. So last week, he rang me and said, oh, your mother used to order my seed for me, and it comes from a wholesaler out of, I think they're at, no, they're not Gatton. They're somewhere out in the Lockyer Valley, which is sort of the food bowl of our southeast corner of Queensland. So Dad was quite wound up. I won't say he's stressed, but, you know, he was concerned at how he would get his seed because he needed to start planting beans. They grow in summer but come to life, you know, ready to be harvested autumn. So it's time to get them into the ground, and he had run out of seeds. So it was not a problem. What variety of seed did you want? And he still had the catalogue from the seed company. So I was able to get online and order him 200 grams of gourmet beans seed, and they've arrived to the door. So he's busy planting all of those and numerous other veggies. So yeah, he's carrying on with the planting of the vegetables. We don't milk cows anymore. When we sold the farm, this just caught my eye. When we sold the farm, the cows, the dairying had stopped many years prior because it's just wasn't viable anymore. The big boys came into town and all the little dairy farmers no longer. So small crops, and in a big way we do pumpkins, onions now, but back in the day carrots were in a big way. Really the smaller crops Dad just does and sells via market stall, but he does do acres of pumpkins and acres of onions and takes them on through to Bundaberg to sell at like a co-op. I'm just yapping away here and just throwing random things down, so just bear with me. I feel like I need a bit of lace. So yeah, Dad's still very much involved in the farm, but yeah, it's not as easy as it was because it's, you know, it was a two-man crew for all of their marriage. So we're definitely having conversations about less planting to create less work for him, because he's also having to run a household now. He's got all these additional tasks that were done by Mum. So yeah, it's definitely becoming a challenge, but so far so good. And if I can help in a small way by ordering the seed, and if he wants to keep planting, you just can't take a farmer off of a farm. He's a typical farmer with the bare feet and brown as a berry, and we're constantly getting little skin cancers cut out of him, and oh my goodness me, it's just harsh country, you know, when you're farming. So yeah, it's a whole nother world. So when the vegetable patch prompt come up, I was like, oh boy, this is going to be a trip down memory lane. Just opening up my little box of tricks here, and I want to go nibbling in around this piece again and work in some of these elements. I really want to use those pink flowers, but I'm restraining myself because they're technically not suitable because it's pink, and I don't want to bring pink into it. So one is going to behave herself. And we're going to start working on how to soften the edge of our veggie patch. Whether this is the right piece or not, we'll see, but it's in tune with the rest of the if I was to detach that, would that be a major problem, or can I redirect him up? Is he the right piece? Should I do more of a softer edge? What else we got in here? I haven't used any of this braid yet. A little morsel of that would be rather sweet on that edge, wouldn't it? Is that going to come to pieces the moment I cut it? Probably. That'd be a nice little element along there, and then embroider some flowers. What else have we got in here that we haven't played with yet? Just some scrappy bits. There's another braid. Sort of really like that fabric down there. So do I want to... Oh, I don't mind that. It really feels like a paddock. Yeah. Then I could keep that velveteen. It's like a velveteeny sort of feel. Oh, I like that, guys. I think we are going to create an edge to our garden with this braid. It's probably a bit wide, but I think it'll look really cool. And then that'll catch this little bit of random tatting that I picked up while I was yibby-yabbering. I'll stop at this edge here, because that to me feels like it's a whole nother scene happening here. Maybe I'll bring some wildflowers up into there. Could be another paddock. I'm thinking it's going to be wildflowers. So I'm just pinning this down. Don't think I'll cut it. I think I'll be able to ease it into position with stitching. Yeah, I like that. So our paddock will come through there. We've then got the start of some borders and randomness. Now, let's just refer to the piece up here. See these stones and all of that? I'm thinking I'm going to put that under the barrow because, I don't know, at the edge of Dad's paddocks are often piles of rocks where over the years, as we've walked through, we've picked up stones and piled them at the edge of the paddock. So I'm thinking in along here, there's going to be a mix of beads and things like that with some little flowers, just to show that the farmer has been clearing his paddock, because every time you furrow a paddock, you'll always turn up rocks, and it can take years and years and years for all of those rocks to finally be gone, because every time you have a little dig, the rocks come up again. So we're forever picking up random not pebbles, but, you know, rocks. So I'm going to definitely do some stones up here. That'll give a line for my barrow to sit in. Some little French knots or some little daisies, something small, probably daisies, like, they're a definite. So let's leave them out. Like that was 5 little French knots with a French knot in between, something like that, just to sprinkle in there. I may even pull those sequin flowers back up. Where are they? Here. Those there, just to soften down through, and then do something similar sort of on the perimeter of the farm. Yeah, that's going to work. I'm happy with that. Now back to just putting some feature in. Let's revisit this. I'm going to separate that because it's not technically joined. So let's have a play with this little guy. He's a better size. I sort of feel like I need to be down here. Yeah, that's good. that? Do I like that? Is it getting too busy? Am I overpowering my paddock? I think I am. Do I work on the wildflower idea down here where we're creating just a cluster and let that be open just with tiny little elements? Yeah, I think this needs to be air here at the moment anyway. Maybe something goes in there in the way of I don't know. I sort of do like how that's connecting now through to the arbor, the paddock on the way, then the barrow. Yeah. Maybe I need smaller elements just to soften it. Let's go back to this lace and snip some little pieces out and see if we can create something that's just a little bit more delicate. Just trimming it up a little bit so it's not so big visually, and just getting rid of those little bits. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, that's better. I think once I get the lines in, that chocolate line, it'll really show what I'm trying to say there. And then if I keep my embellishments small, leading up to this big chunky guy here, just scattering in a few little bits, I think it'll work. Then I can go to my beads and maybe work some beads in amongst it, or some lazy daisy little flowers. Just focus on this bottom edge, nothing here, leave that, and just drifting down into this zone. There's that button. I found this beehive too. It's got no shaft. It was on a brooch and it came off of the brooch. But I don't know how I would attach it other than gluing. Is it too mustardy? It sort of is. No, not today. Yeah, I think we're okay. I think we're coming along here with a bit of a plan of attack. So it'll be invisible stitch it down. Just now turning my pins so they at least catch this to some degree, so it doesn't just fall apart on me. Gosh, such good memories growing up on the farm. It wasn't an easy childhood, as in workload, but because I'm an active person, it was right up my alley, to be honest. Like, if I didn't have to be in the house, in my room doing homework, I was down the paddock assisting with something, or helping with animal care and, you know, all those things that come with being on the farm. I just don't like that nodule there on that lace. It's interfering a bit. My paddock. I think growing up on the farm instilled in me a work ethic. I don't even think twice about workload. I just get in and do it. And I think that's what a farm kid learns. that you've got to get in and do it. When it's harvest time, let's say we were doing hay work, it was often late at night, waiting for the right temperature in the hay. That should be twisted. It's come untwisted. And then we'd be picking it up or baling it and putting in the shed, you know. So working late at night was a very big feature of farm life. So can I get a button in there? No, stop with the buttons, Corrine. Don't need a button. So being a farm kid, I think, really gets a real work ethic in, and work can be at any time. It's not Monday to Friday. It's not 9 to 5. It's any time. It's harvest time. It's just time to work. Things we remember. So why does that look different? Okay, so the threads come undone. And there's a thread holding this yarn together by the looks of it. So that needs to come out so that I can access more of that. Yeah, three lines will be pretty easy to achieve. Maybe there'll be a fourth over here, but that'll work. So just giving the illusion of a paddock. Probably when someone glances at it, they're going to go, got no idea what's happening here. Quite possibly. There's a fourth bit of thread. I'll just pin it there so it's ready for when I need to actually stitch it down. Okay, so we have our paddock. You can walk past the paddock, come back down to the gate. It's off to the side. I like that idea. We're going to bring a little bit of tatting in there just to, you know, for whatever reason, texture. Our barrow, I like the flowers. We'll build on all those flowers and stitch in beads and pearls and rocks and all of that. So that's a plan. Okay, now what are we going to put in our barrow? I did talk about packets of seeds. Maybe I can give the illusion that they're there just with some little rectangles. I think so. That's going to work. Little packets. And then when all else fails, another implement to put in your seeds. So a little trowel can be poking up there. And then some what? French knots, flowers, something like that. I think that'll work. Let's get some cotton on and see if we can sort of stitch something. Got 3 threads here. All else fails, fill your barrel with flowers. Come on. I'll do the big one. The speed of threading of needles. And let's do these little packets of seeds. Let's see if I can get that looking like a little rectangular packet. And then maybe I put a few squiggles on it so that it looks like a bit of writing. I don't know. Probably overthinking it now. Just a few little strokes, a few little stitches. Let's do the second packet. I guess if no one knows what they are, they can watch this video and go, oh, okay, Corrine was attempting to do seed packets. At least there'll be something documented. Okay. Just a few little strokes. Now we've got the third one. Okay, just tucking in there. A little bit of squiggle on it so it looks like it's written. Now, a little spade would be good, leaning up. I think my angle needs to change to be more over there. A little itty bitty guy, so just a few little stitches. Trying not to overthink the construction of my spade too much. Little handle. It'll be a fat little chubby handle because it's just a small tool. Yep. Put a little bit more of a stitch on the top there. Yep, so there's a little spade hanging out the top of the barrow. Do I stitch it in? I'm going to stitch it in, guys. I just feel like it needs to be a little bit more solid looking. It's only a small little space, but it'll give the impression that there's a solid tool there. That's it. That's better. I like that better. Probably can't see as much detail as you're not as close as I am to it, but I think it just gives it a bit more structure. We know there's something there. Okay. Yep. Finish that off, and I think I might pop a few stitches in. To finish that edge of that, where's my brown cotton got to? What did I do with that the other day? Here it is. I'm just going to finish that top edge of the barrow. I feel like I've got enough little elements in there, and once I put a few little flowers or beads or something in there, I think it'll be okay. We're not going to go past that top line now, so I'm just going to couch in the top of my barrow. A couple little strokes of the needle. And that'll really sell the story that we've got this little barrow. Yeah, that's better. Maybe I could glamour it up a little bit just with some more beads. Where's my little pearls? Hey, that'd be fun. It's just to get a bit of sparkle. Where'd my needle get to? There it is. I'm just going to have a play with adding some pearls in there. What would they be? Rock melons? Who knows? Produce, we will say. Vegetables of some description. Let's just get it started. Oh my goodness. Okay, what have we got? These might be too big. Or maybe I could go bigger. Let's have a play with these guys. These are melons of some description. These are, I don't know what these are. The beads of something she's harvested from another paddock that we can't see. So we're going to give the illusion she's been harvesting and now she's working a new paddock with new seeds. Talk about degree of difficulty here with all these pins. Yeah, I like that. Totally illogical, but we're going to fill the barrow with a random produce. Oh, don't get caught down there. Getting ahead of myself here, but I want to sort of nut out a lot of the processes with you so that I'll go off and do my homework. And it might give you guys a bit of an idea of something you can add. I'm not going to put another bead in there because I don't want to lose the integrity of that barrow. So let's just end that off. It'll put a bit of glitz into our barrow too. Everything's so glamour and sparkly on this piece with that neutral champagne tone, so won't hurt to have a bit of, where's my gold ones? Or do we just use some pearly ones? Don't know if my needle, I'm just going to do a few stitches in there just to catch. And then I'm going to see if I can thread that and pearl in. Just to pop a little bit of interest in there around that basket. So I don't know what these are. What's white in the vegetable department? Turnips, and she's oh, they're radishes. No, they're red. They're turnips, and she's taken, I really jiggered that up. She's taken the tops off because that's good mulch for your garden. So you leave the tops down at the garden. Gee, I talk rubbish. absolute rubbish. All right, so I'm going to now look for something I can stitch in the front of the barrow. Just a barrow full of goodies here. So let's get, I don't want to overpower my seeds. Maybe I stay with the pearls because they're subtle. They're there, but they're not. So I might just pick up just a couple and just have them appear as if they're behind the seed packets. These so-called turnips. I should be doing 2 stitches per bead just to make sure they're secure. So I'm being a bit naughty. I'll do a second stitch in that bead. And then I might just pop a couple in between. Not that you guys can see what I'm doing here, but it has given the barrow a bit of a 3-dimensional feel, like there's things in it. Can't quite really see what they are, but it's helping sell the story that it's a barrow full of bits and pieces. Now, that's enough of those pearls. I might see if I can pop a few little flowers in as well to really thicken up the contents of the barrow. I can creep over that basket a little bit because I want to still see that there's seed packets. But we can sneak onto the basket. Now sometimes I use a little bead to catch this little floral sequin into position, and it puts a nice little touch, but I want to keep it quite subtle. There's enough chunky beads in my image, so I'm going to use the cotton just to create 3 or 4 lines across the top of that little sequin, which will help it look like a flower. Oh, goodness me. I'm rushing. I've just glanced up and realised we've got under 15 minutes and I'm rushing. So there'll be just this little flower here. Then I might sneak over to this edge over here and we'll put another one there, and then maybe one at the front of the barrow. Am I disguising the fact of my basket? Probably a little bit, but I know it's there. But my barrow is certainly starting to look abundant with produce and a bit of a floral undertone to it. So I'll just finish that thread off because I want to get the thread again. And I think I need a couple up in the top corner of the barrow at the front. So my homework will be to stitch all of these elements down, get my furrows in place using that eyelash yarn, trimming off all of the bits and just stitching the cordage down. I'll still leave a few little bits because it sort of softens the whole thing. And I'll put some pebbles in around do another flower up in the back here. Might even be able to get 2 in. Probably my apple basket is not as predominant as it was, but that's okay. Where is the flower gone? So this piece is coming along nicely. Not sure when you'll see it pop up again because there's so much work in some of the other ones. Whether I do something again on it in another video or I just show you it completed and we're looking at the next prompt. I'm just not sure. We'll see how we go. I usually do 2 videos per project. I just feel like I need another flower, but where would it sit? Would it sit to the front of the barrow? Or does it sit to the side? I sort of feel like it could sit there in the front. I am losing the shape a little bit that I stitched in, but I don't think it matters. It feels like those flowers are cascading over the barrow a little bit. So yeah, it's roughly 2 videos per project, but that French garden one, because it's a big wall panel, like nearly 2.5 or 2 and a bit sizes of a tea towel, I'll keep coming back to that one because there's just hours and hours of work in that. So that's going to be my predominant project throughout this whole project. I'm going to just put in a couple more pearls, I think, just to soften the top edge of those flowers. Yeah, that's good. Just sort of connects it all. A little bit of air here and there. Yeah. Yeah. That's good. I'm happy with that. Okay. That barrow has lots of interest in it now. Just random stitches and elements that really are just telling you that it's in use. Other than that, we can't really define what is what in there. We've got a little spade. We've got then all sorts of little bits and pieces in it. I think once I get the stones in position, it'll really start to sell the story. I may even need, I've got a few minutes, I may even need to shade in that spade, but I think I'll leave it to the end. I don't want it to be a big brown blob there that's all you see with your eye. I'll just give it a, a moment or two just to settle and see if it's needed or not. I'll get these little pebbles started next. So I want some smaller little elements. Where are my itty bitty beads that are the calico colour? They could be used for stones, they're good. I have some small beads in this colour and I just can't see them on my desk. They must be, because I want to soften. What about some of those? They're sort of the wrong colour. What's the bottom before I open that and have beads everywhere? See, there's there. They're a bit big, but I so love them. They're the wrong colour. No. Stick with what I'm doing, Corrine. Don't go sidetracking. I'm gonna make a mess now. I need some of these little orangey ones. Yep. I really need the small ones. See, what I'm looking for is those guys. So I will do some flowers again. These little sequiny guys. Where is it? In amongst it as well. But I want to make them the same as those further up on the path. So they need that little tiny seed bead in amongst it. Then in amongst that, I had some tiny little gold beads as well, just to soften the whole area down. Some of these. Come on. So there'll be a couple of those pop up in amongst it to build that ground. Then from there I can probably put in some pistol stitches just to give the impression there's some tufts of grass in there. That just helps soften things a little bit too. I'm going to run out of time. But get the general gist of the stone elements coming through. Along that edge. That should work up well. I might just finish this thread off. And we've got 8 minutes, so I want to grab some green. My piece is getting dangerous. I've got that many pins in it, pinning things down, which should be done by now, but because we're filming and I'm trying to scoot ahead with as much as I can for you, where is some green thread? Don't want to be too crazy with it. This is some thread that came in a little kit that I bought from Anne Brook. It was to make a sewing needle book, but I just pulled it apart and used all of the fabrics in it to do a piece in one of my Journal of Stitchery prompts last year, because I wanted to see some of the fabrics that Anne uses. It's all well and good watching everyone on these YouTube channels, but you really get an essence of their work and their creations when you buy a little kit from them. And even if you don't do the kit, sometimes it's a great way of just, you know, seeing some of the world of textile that Anne works within. And this little thread was in the kit, and it's so pretty. I have no idea what it is, but it's got a lovely little structure to it. So I'm going to work it into here. It's variegated, so it's going to create quite a nice little effect, I think. I'm just going to pop a few little stitches back up here where the foot of that barrow, let's zoom in, the foot of the barrow is touching some tufts of grass. Hopefully it'll start changing colour soon. I don't want it to be too green because this piece is not about green, it's about champagne. But I'm going to just work. Now I'm going to come down onto the cheesecloth, so we're right in the foreground, and get some yellowy, greeny tufts of grass coming through the background here. Just strokes. Got that many bead containers open to the side of me here. It's just bound to be a disaster soon. I might even do something crazy here, and we'll do a pistol stitch because we can. And we're picking up that darker variations starting to come in, so my knot at the top is a lot darker. Yep, love it. Probably don't have enough left to do another pistol stitch, but that's okay. I will sneak in here a couple little stitches, just little tufts as I head to that side, and then I'll end it off. Nice little morsel of Anne appearing there. Wonder what thread this is. Gee, it's nice. It's like nearly cordage. So there's a few little tufts of grass in there. So I'm thinking I'm going to go back to that as a little piece. Oops. And I'm going to do a few more strokes, long stitches. I might sneak another pistol stitch into that side, then work my way back across. So let's get another little guy up here. That's really good. And I got a couple minutes to go, so I'll just scoot back through the foliage. I think we've got 2 minutes left on the video, just with more little random stitches to create the impression that we've got grass. My husband's just closing the door so you can hear it squeaking. Ready for breakfast, I think. I'm getting a little peckish. I might just bring those tufts down a little bit onto the paddock a bit. They're very subtle, but they're there. Just softens the edge. I'm going to leave that free of anything. That's the path you would walk through into the paddock. Oh, I don't like that one down there. I'm going to jump across and pop in a few stitches over here, I think, just to soften the edge of that spade a little. Yeah, that's good. I'm going to need more thread. I can see it. Some tufts of grass here. Gee, it's pretty. Okay, that's the end of that thread. All right, guys, I think we've got ourselves a bit of a plan of attack here. So our barrow is full at the moment. I'm happy with that. I feel like I could keep layering in plenty here. I'll finish my paddock and then work my way down to this bottom corner as there's like a bit of a wild garden coming through here. Whether I do anything there or not, maybe I just leave it. Gives a chance for the eye to rest. But that's the start of my veggie patch. I'm pretty happy with that. That's going to come together quite well, if I do say so myself. All right, guys, I'll leave you alone. Have a great day and hope you get to do some stitching, and I will see you all in the next video, whatever that may be. Bye for now.